As always, let's start with a little
cheers.
It's the end of the week. Yay, cheers everybody.
Cheers.
I was just saying, I'm very, very excited. I've got my good gear on today. I've got the sparkle outfit. We're going out to restaurant dinner. Yay!
It's going to be a party atmosphere. I think in most restaurants, but definitely your restaurant.
Well, there's only going to be us and one other table. So, you know, there's only going to be 10 of us. We're taking along a table of 4, and there's going to be a table of 6. And this restaurant has normally would have 20 tables in it. So I'm pretty sure we'll be fine at keeping our social distance.
When did you book in?
We actually asked the kids a couple of weeks ago. We said, guys, when this all ends, where do you want to go to dinner? And there's a little place, it's a pizza place down in Haberfield, which is right near us. So as soon as they announced it, we just ran. We're just like, right, first sitting, straight in. So
that's
anybody else have big plans for the weekend? No one else got big plans for the weekend?
Oh no, sorry, no. I'm in Federal, so there's not many restaurants out anyway. So my husband will just have to cook dinner, which he actually always does. So that shouldn't be. So that's my big plan, but nothing exciting.
I'm very blessed.
We've got family friends whose daughter's having a birthday. So there's 5 of us in the family. I've got 3 kids. So 5 people are allowed to visit another family. So we qualify to do a house visit. This is the first house visit. So we're all very excited to kind of get out of quarantine for the first time.
And don't you appreciate everything all over again? It's like, things you took for granted before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, I'm going to get straight into it. I can see the numbers are increasing there. I'm going to do the same thing we did last week, and we're just going to kick off with a game. For those people that won last week, massive bonus for you guys, because I was meant to get you a $20 Amazon gift card. My goal in life is always aiming for awesome, not perfect, and I nailed the awesome, not perfect again because I sent it to you all in US dollars. So bonus for anyone who won a $20 Amazon gift card last week. So are you guys struggling to hear me today?
It's okay. It's not brilliant.
Okay, cool. I'm going to sit a little bit closer. So apologies if I'm not as you might notice my background's a little bit different this week. We just had computer glitches at the very last second. So now I'm on my daughter's computer with, I'm not quite sure where everything is. But to play the game, down the bottom we have a chat box. And basically the idea of this is I want you guys to get used to using the chat function and join in the conversation with us as we go. So down in the very bottom corner, if you hover over, you're going to see a little speaking bubble that says chat. And now on the right-hand side, because when you click on that, it opens up a panel, usually on the right-hand side, but depending on your device. But when you see that panel, over there, there's one that says to, and a little drop-down menu, and you want to make sure that it's highlighted to all panelists and attendees. Good on you. Thank you for jumping in there, Glenn. You got that going over there. So fantastic. We're going to start off this week. Last week, I think I did a boy's name. So we're going to give away 3 $20 Amazon gift vouchers. This time, let's go for a girl's name. Whoever answers first wins, by the way. So get ready. A girl's name beginning with F. Can they all give you a girl's name? Oh, Jasmine, straight in. Right, Jasmine won their $20 this time. Well done, Sam. Sam is a great answer. Perfect. Now, the next one we will do is a type of car, a brand of car beginning with T. I'd make it easier. I'm not a very good Tesla. Nice one, Justine. I love it. Oh, the J's are doing really well today. Nice one. And finally, let's go for a brand of clothing beginning with C. Country Road. Nice one, Justine. But I'm going to give it to the next person. I can't give you 2 in a row. Joe Templin. I've got to have, this is all just for fun. Joe Templin, well done. So fantastic. Target. That is also a good brand of clothing. I have to say, much of my clothing is from there. Oh no, that's okay. I must be not talking very loudly. Okay, well today we are going to be chatting with some amazing people from all over Australia. As you guys, we've been talking about the lockdown is starting to decrease. We're sort of starting to, you know, the restrictions are starting to ease, and it feels like it's that time where we're like, right, let's get back into this. But you know what? It's going to be a new normal for a while. You know, it's not quite going to be the same as it was. I know for us, we did big weddings, the 100 caps sort of pushing us back a little bit, and that means that we're going to have to change it up. To pivot seems to be the word of the day these days. So what I wanted to do is bring some really awesome people that I got to know recently, and known for a little bit longer. So I can chat with them about how they have adapted their brand and innovated over time. So, yeah, and I think probably one of the main things too is that I loved our talk about 4 weeks ago. Oh God, has it been that long? I can't believe it. Maybe not that long ago. I like to be a really big straight shooter. I do like to sugarcoat things with honey a little bit, but it's, you know, I also think it's really important that we're honest about things as well. And when we did the talk with a couple of the venues, I loved chatting to Jessie from Queensland. I loved chatting to Anthony from Chippers White Group. They were so insightful, and they really brought to attention something that I hadn't even thought of, was that, you know, grazing tables are gone. You know, like that's never coming back. Where, you know, food service, there's things like this, and those are things that are going to impact the cost of producing a wedding. And certainly going ahead, our brides and grooms aren't going to have more money. They're not going to go, oh, well, if the cost of producing a wedding goes up, that's fine, I'll just pay a little bit more. Yeah, kind of not going to happen. And so straight away, they were talking about ways in which they are going to do things differently, because they also were aware that you know, you can't really, they're not going to be able to necessarily put their prices up. They're going to have to do something a little bit differently. So I'm going to kick this straight into Karen. Now, I'm going to introduce our panelists first of all. We've got Karen Willis Holmes, who is an amazing, like an absolutely amazing wedding dress designer icon. I was trying to think of how to describe you. She has 5 stores, businesses across Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and New York. Please tell me, Karen, you're not in New York right now.
No, I'm not. I'm safely tucked away in Federal behind Byron Bay. So I'm in a very safe location.
Fantastic. And so she's going to have a little chat to us about her curve range. We also have Glenn McKay, who is an amazing international, I hear, DJ event organizer from up in Queensland. Say hi, Glenn.
Hello, everybody.
Tell me a little bit about you.
Okay, so I should kind of set the whole thing straight about international wedding DJ. For those who know me, and I saw on the chat on the side there's a few familiar faces. So thank you to those who actually know me for tuning in, and hopefully I can drop something of intelligence for you all. But I'm not actually a wedding DJ. I own a wedding DJ company. I'm a wedding MC.
Got it.
So I work with my DJs, and we do lighting design and some fun, cool things like that. And international wise, I learn a lot internationally. I don't perform internationally. I've been involved in a couple of weddings overseas, one in the US, one in Canada, but it's not like a regular thing. I'm kind of like a Southeast Queensland kind of fella. And
oh, you're so humble. I love it.
And do a little bit in Sydney from time to time, but pretty much just, actually I saw my friend Serge on here from Sydney, and he actually assisted me at the wedding I did in Sydney. So thanks for tuning in, Serge.
Oh, Serge is fantastic. I've had some good long chats with him. He's like so on the ball. And thank you. That explains it to me a lot more as well, because I can see you've got your little plaque in the background as well. Natasha from Abbey have recommended you, and she's like, right. He like literally goes overseas, gets all his inspiration, and I do. Oh yeah, just a couple up there. That's very good.
I'm very lucky to have an amazing team. Like I get to put them on my wall, but there's 15 people in our team, and I just am lucky to be the one to go up and collect things when they do amazing work. So.
Oh, you're so lovely. And our final panelist is Annetta, who owns the Bridesmaids Dressing Room down in Melbourne. And say hi, Annetta.
Hi, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here. And
now, can you hear me a little bit better now, by the way?
Yeah, much better, Rachel. Yeah,
okay, I'll stop screaming.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, and we're really looking forward to sharing how we've pivoted and innovated during this Corona craziness and helped our brides and bridesmaids in need. So very exciting to be on this call today.
Oh, cool. That's fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. So yeah, I'm just going to jump straight in and ask Karen a little bit about what she did, because basically when I thought of this idea of talking about innovating and what we as businesses can do differently to react to a changing market, I thought of Karen straight away, because Karen, your ads and your social media pieces come up in my feed all the time. I love it because there are so many wedding dress designers out there who are targeting the gorgeous, skinny, tiny little you know, size 8 bride, and hey, they're beautiful. We love them. They look great on our Instagram feeds and it's wonderful. But there's plenty of us out there that aren't going to fit into a size 8. And I know you created a range of curve dresses, but I guess what I really noticed about yours as well was it wasn't just that you had the range. You've got this beautiful rapport and energy going about the brand as well. I mean, tell me a little bit about how this new innovation, or, you know, attending to a gap in the market came about.
Well, with the Curve collection, I've always done sort of like, with my bespoke collection, we had done gowns for sort of like up to a size 24. But one of the things that with Curve gowns that brides are different, the same body measurements is quite a different shape. So it means that you don't always get the fit you want from a very structured gowns. And by the very nature of wedding gowns, they're actually usually very fitted and very sort of bodycon, even though you might have a full skirt, but they're still sort of like taking on the body shape from underneath. But then a couple of years ago, I'd done the Wild Hearts collection. And one of the things that I liked about these was that they took my bespoke pieces, but that also I used a stretch base and a stretch lace. So we still had sort of like very fitted shapes, but because they had a stretch base, it meant it molded over more body shapes. So it just gave you a really fabulous look, much easier than with a traditional kind of like base gown. And then also in fashion at the same time, there's more curve girls were being celebrated, which was really nice. So it just seemed at the right time to do a curve collection and be very body conscious and absolutely show the curves off and make the most of it as well. So that was sort of like, it was just the right timing for a lot of things, and it literally just felt like that's the time that we should do it, and that we had a lot of girls that, I mean, obviously curve brides that wanted something fashionable. They didn't want sort of like a super, I mean, and not that we do plenty of structured dresses, but they're physically a very different piece of clothing to wear. So that was where it was born from, just and to celebrate, but make a really fashionable wedding gown and to show off that fabulous curvy figure.
Oh, and I love that. When you were talking to me about it earlier, you were saying, yeah, it's about celebrating the curvy figure. And I think that is such a trend. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's certainly the way younger people are brought up these days, is to be body proud, and no matter what your shape is, to celebrate it. And how did you talked then about intuition? It just felt like the right decision to make. Did you guys sit down and go, right, we need to do something different and we are going to innovate? Or did you go, oh, I've got this idea just from watching what other people are doing? Or was it just, how does the inspiration start?
It really would be probably more the second thing. To me, it's just lots of information comes in, like there's little signs everywhere. You just see something, or and when I'm talking about this, I'm thinking of a few billboards I saw in New York that were really sort of like promoting curvy girls, and there was a lot of in regular fashion, not bridal. Yeah. And I've never noticed that before. So, and obviously they're very in your face there, whatever the billboards are, because there tends to be quite a lot. So it just was a trend. So that's where that came from. But I mean, that's not the only thing. And actually that was more in hindsight that I saw that afterwards, but that's what sticks in my head. But it's just listening. It's keeping an eye out. It's having a look. It's I suppose it's forecasting really, but without being aware of it. But to me, that's part of being in fashion. That's what you're doing. That's what you should be doing. And that's what you're interested in, and seeing how trends are moving and flowing, and what's happening and what's coming up in the world, and sort of taking all of that in, and then seeing what pops out of your head and how you decide and where you go, and then which other ideas you've got to go from there.
And I'm going to ask you this first, Karen, but then I know that I'm going to move into Annetta. Annetta is the queen of like numbers and analysis and has the accounting background. So I'm going to start with you, and then don't worry, Annetta, I'm going to get to you really quickly when it comes to the numbers. But tell me, when you do get this idea for inspiration like that, because I know that one of the problems Dean and I have is that we go, right, we could do this, and then we could do this, and then we could do this, and we'll have 5 ideas at once. How do you know which is the right idea to go with? Is it more of I'm a creative, I'm going to do what I'm passionate about? Or is it more, okay, I actually think that this will reward me more for my hard work?
For me, I actually think it's a lot of things, and I'm actually probably a very sensible creative as well. I've got I'll have a look at probably what's the worst case scenario. Obviously, It depends what bigger jump you're making in something. But I'm also very much a believer, if I want to do it and it feels right, I'll just jump in. I'll have a look at worst case or what I think it is. And definitely I'm not a figures person. So I know when I talk to my accountant, sometimes he'll be like looking at me wondering what on earth I'm talking about or where I've got this logic from. But things add up in my head differently, I suppose. So then it's to decide, okay, well, we think this is a good idea. And actually, when I say we, my husband's involved in the business as well. So he's sort of in the background and we're talking about things together.
Yeah.
But it's okay, we think this is a good idea, we'll do it. And then we just jump in, because I believe if you look at something too long and think of all of the problems, then you're not going to do it. So I'm very much a deep end person. Once I know what my worst case scenario is and can I afford it not to work, then okay, well then that's my risk. So then I'll kind of go, yeah, that's worth it, or no, it's not worth it. And yes, it has to add up to, obviously, there has to be a dollar value at the end. It needs to work for some reason. But I see dollars as a measure of me doing the right thing, not my reason for doing it.
Oh, lovely. That's a really good way to think of it, because I know it's to be honest, one of the challenges that Dean and I have working as a husband and wife team is that we need to fulfill both of our desires and both of what drives us. So for me, I'm more on I love growing our business, and I see a measure of that as being numbers, whereas Dean sees a measure of it as being passion and how well he's getting, to fulfill his creativity as well. So that's interesting that what did you say? A sensible creative. I like that.
Yeah.
A sensible creative. I'm going to take that away. So that's a really good takeaway. So our first takeaway is definitely, to not only look at what you'll gain from it, but can you afford for it not to work? So you're not putting too much on the line. I like that. Now, Annetta, if we are we're a creative by heart and we sort of haven't had much experience in working out how to analyze if something is financially worthwhile doing, how do we start? How do we do this for the first time?
I guess I take for granted that I've got an accounting and CPA background. So for me, it comes naturally to look at the numbers. And for everybody out there, I'd say the first thing is to actually take away the fear of looking at numbers, because I know a lot of people in business are afraid to even confront what the numbers might look like. So a starting point, I mean, you don't necessarily need, fancy schmancy accounting software to figure out if something's going to work or not. You could literally do it on a basic spreadsheet. Yeah, spreadsheets. So it doesn't have to be anything overly complicated. That would be my first tip.
Oh, that's great. And so if I'm kind of going, I know you did mention earlier, and this is something I believe in. So we started Enlighten about 18 years ago. And back in the day, we used to work out what was the cost of printing and what was the cost of the album and what was the cost of the film. Film, can you believe? And what was the cost of, the shooter and all those things and the lighting equipment. Now, today, we barely use any of those items. To me, these days, it's all about time. So not only am I analyzing what, and an interesting point that Karen made was that, the idea of the stretchy fabrics came from something you already used. You were already working in these stretchy fabrics, and you're like, okay, I can apply that in a different model, in a different shape and size. How do you work out how much time to commit to something, and if it's worthwhile doing time-wise as well as money-wise?
Sure. Like anything, that the good old saying, time is money. I think as business owners, particularly as the founder or CEO of a business, you need to articulate, like, what is your time worth and what are you focusing your activities on? So if, for example, you're spending your tasks on high-level strategy work to grow the business and move it to the next level, then that's definitely an area that you should be investing in. But if you find yourself getting caught into the day-to-day sort of items of the business that is low-level tasks that you could potentially outsource to others, then you've got to figure out where your money is better spent in terms of your time as well. So you could almost put a dollar value on your time and energy and effort that you expend on something. And like anything, you need to, in your business, understand what are the fixed costs and what are the variable costs of your business. Like at the moment, any good business owner going through this period needs to understand very clearly what are the fixed costs of just purely keeping the business afloat.
Okay, hang on. So let's just go back a second.
To,
okay, fixed costs.
yes.
Right. So that being the stuff that even if I don't open the door, so exactly the scenario, this is like an iconic moment in time that we all thought about that would never happen. These are the costs that we still have to pay even though we're not making any money and we're not trading, right?
Correct, absolutely. So for example, with myself, the bridesmaids showroom, the actual bridesmaids dressing room showroom,
yeah,
we still have to pay the rent. We still have to pay all the overheads. We still have to pay for the internet connection and the phone lines and the phones and the mobile phones and all of those fixed running costs, and I like the website and the website support, because even though people aren't buying as much, if we switch those off, technically our business is off and not available to the world. So it's like the very basics, I call it basics 101 accounting, that you should know what it actually costs to just keep your business alive before you even make any money.
Yeah. Now I have to say as well, you mentioned there about putting a value on your time. Yes. I will put my hand up and say, I refuse to do the housework sometimes, like to a certain level. I'm like, if I can't make more than that, what it costs me to have a cleaner each week, I'm not working hard enough. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I cannot do too much. That's one challenge I set myself. If I take that extra hour or two and then try and earn more money that I can pay for something that I don't need to do myself. Now, Glenn, another thing that Annetta talked about was investing in strategy. And that's very much, I guess, what you were saying about how you'll go overseas and get ideas from what other businesses are doing around the world and then sort of almost bring them home to Australia. To me, that sounds like a wicked way to spend some money. Tell me about how that creates innovation for your business.
For sure. So one of the places that I travel to the most is the US, and the US does entertainment better than we do. So that's where I go to learn about what's coming up for us in Australia. And because so few people do that, I'm usually ahead of the curve on a few elements, or at least able to assess whether or not they're going to be good. Because you've got to, just taking something out of, say, the East Coast, like a New York wedding, and trying to put it in an Australian wedding, you're going to end up with a beer can thrown at your head, because it just won't work. There's certain levels of interactivity that they do that would not go down really well here. So it's
like that kind of thing.
Like the rah-rah MCs who, let's hear it for, that sort of rubbish. But but it's taking that and then making it unique to us here, so that it will work. And don't get me wrong, we've made mistakes, but that's part of it. Tell me one.
Tell me a good mistake you've made.
Just not being genuine. Sometimes being a little bit too over the top. And as an MC or a performer, it's often too many people get caught up in making it about them rather than directing focus and attention to where it should be. Which is not necessarily the couple, but usually it's the couple, or it could be something else. So just little things like that. Trying to, when I first learned about how to, manipulate a timeline in a way that suits the couple, I got a lot of pushback from venues, because venues were used to doing things a certain way. And now, working more closely with the venues, we've created ways that there's a balance between the two. So for example, not every typical timeline suits what every couple wants. Some couples want 5 hours of dancing, some couples want 30 minutes of dancing. And so we want to make sure we've got a balance between keeping all those other vendors happy and the couple happy, so that everything just works. And
now, I've got one question coming in here too, Glenn, as well. When you go to the US, where do you go to get this info? So do you go to expos? Do you actually attend weddings? Where do you go?
Sure. So I've been to a wedding expo in the States, in Las Vegas, actually. I've been to wedding conferences. I went to Wedding MBA a few years ago. I want to go back. It's just a hard time of year to get to. A DJ conference is where it all started for me. I went to a DJ conference in Las Vegas, and I try to get there most years, but pretty tricky at the moment. And then I've now been involved for the last sort of 5 years or so with a think tank group over there, which is sort of businesses that dwarf mine, most of them. They're really amazing people doing amazing things. And I was invited to be part of that group. And it's a smaller group, only about sort of 50 businesses in there. And we meet annually, well, usually annually, not this year, that got cancelled. Well, my part of it got cancelled.
Yeah.
And so we're able to, I guess, dive a little deeper on some things, and we can share more openly and help each other. So, for example, at the moment, everything that they're innovating in the States with regards to social distancing at events and doing driveway things and things, all these things, certainly helping. But it's not just going to them. I find you've got to be open to it. A lot of DJs in my market have been to these conferences over there. But if you're not open to change, then you're definitely not going to bring anything exciting back. You're going to come back and do the same old.
100%. Like one of my biggest loves when I go to one of those conferences is to not just write a to-do list, but also write a not to-do list. Because you go to something like that and you have so many ideas, but no one ever goes there. Well, maybe the moment's the exception. No one has spare time on their hands, usually. So you'll go to a conference or something like that and you get all these great ideas, but to fit them into your life, you've got to not just do them, you've got to find something you're not going to do.
Yeah, I think it's, and whenever I present at conferences, it's all about, I want you to implement, and I want to give you tangible things that you can take home back to your hotel room that night and implement. Because if you don't implement, you just sat there and listen to a day of content or whatever it is. Same as people who listen to this for the next 45 minutes, whatever, and don't implement anything, then you're probably not going to, you probably had a few wines and you'd be pretty happy, but you might not actually get any business benefit from it.
No, that's great. No, really, really good. Now, Annetta, when you finish drinking your wine, I was going to come to you next because I actually haven't even asked you yet, and I love this, and I know it's going to be so on trend. What has been your recent biggest innovation, and why has it worked so well?
Yeah, cool. So what we introduced during coronavirus was a borrow a bridesmaid's dress system. So it's like borrowing a book from the library. So instead of borrowing a book, you're borrowing a dress.
Oh, cool.
So what we did was we basically, any brides that were inquiring that were still planning a wedding for sort of October and beyond was really the ones that we're calling through. We're saying, I really want to order my dresses. I know that they take 3 to 4 months to get made. How do we do this? So essentially what we did was work with those brides to develop a short list of favorites. And then once they had the favorites, they actually came into the showroom, or we sent out the dresses to them just as a one-on-one consultation if they came in. And we did all the social distancing, gloves, all the rest. And then they took those dresses basically house to house to house to their respective bridesmaids. And then I would do one-on-one Zoom calls with the girls whilst they had a measuring tape. So I ensured that the bride had a measuring tape, because it's not something that I take for granted because I have them everywhere. And I'm sure Karen's the same. We kind of have measuring tapes all over the place. I said, make sure you've got a measuring tape. And then she would pass the measuring tape with the dresses to the girls. We'd do a quick Zoom call, get them to physically try the dresses on in the different sizes that I gave them. And then we'd confirm the measurements by them being guided by me. And then ultimately we got the dresses back. The bride would leave a bit of a holding deposit just to make sure our beautiful gowns got returned intact and not run off somewhere.
And may I get down to the nitty gritty, if you don't mind me asking, how much of a holding deposit do you ask for?
$50.
Oh, okay, great. So it's not something that's, that's good.
It doesn't anywhere near cover the cost of the dress in terms of like our wholesale cost, but I thought it's something easy. It's like if you borrow 4 dresses, you can just leave the $200 and you know that that's okay. So we did have one bride that borrowed 10 because she was like, I can't pick, I'm just going to take them all. And then she kind of ruled out the first 5 with her bridesmaids straight away, and I really only focused on the remaining 5. One of the bridal parties had 3 girls, and they actually all ended up picking different dresses to suit their body shapes. And they were a range of sizes. I think they ended up being a 12, a 14, and a size 24.
And you must get a lot of that, I guess. Everyone has different sizes and ranges and looks when it comes to bridal party. So it'd be nice, I guess, to be able to take it home and try it on in your own home.
Yeah, it was great. And I mean, we had their kids in the background and sort of people flying back in the Zoom call in the back of their kitchens. And it just didn't matter. I think business has kind of taken on a more relaxed style of business now.
Yes.
It's almost like it's acceptable for me to be in like a sports kind of outfit instead of always dolled up all the time, and that was okay, but I don't know if it's still going to be okay when I go back to normal.
That is so true. I swear to God, I'm like actually just washing my hair once a week almost, and I've taken to only doing the front of it just for Zoom calls, and then I just leave the back of it undone. But you know, you're not going to be able to do these things later on, but it's good fun for now. Now tell me, it sounds like you're getting great energy and you're getting good feedback and nice results in that way. Is that enough for you to say that this innovation was a success, or how do you look at it financially? Like, are you sort of looking at it going, it was financially a success, and how do you determine that?
Well, the way that I determine success is, I'd say probably in the top 5 things that I would look at anything, whether it's successful or not, is customer satisfaction is the number 1 thing.
Great.
So I know that we, through this process, have built raving fans from what they've experienced. Because some of them said, "Oh my God,
that phrase anymore." I love it. Raving fans. It's one of my favorite
Oh, really?
expressions. Yeah.
There you go. So customer satisfaction and understanding for us what drives our business, and me, the accountant in me, has KPIs. And measuring against, you know, that in itself is a big tick and a big win. Much like Karen said, you go with your intuition about what feels right for your business.
Yeah.
And I've always been a very heart-centered person, that I'm helping and serving others. So that comes first for me. And then obviously second is sales. If I'm not driving money into the business, my philosophy through this whole coronavirus thing was make sure that I make enough sales to cover those fixed costs that we talked about. So again, it comes back to the dollars, because you have to. So why else are we in business?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're so lucky to be able to do what we do every day. And sometimes when I talk to other people in the wedding industry, they don't want to admit that they need to make money, but you know, you work super hard, you invest in so much of your labor, your weekends, your time. It's really important that you get rewarded properly.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the other things that I also look at is the ease of the process for both us as a business and the customer. You don't want to do things that are so hard that it stifles you and them in the process.
Yes.
So it's about having that sort of really easy process. And, you know, then the 4th thing that we look at is the positive reviews that we're getting from these customers, and those testimonials, a social proof of what is possible. So that's
great.
Another thing that's a success factor. And probably the last thing is to say, well, if it's worked now, what are the future opportunities for growth? So it's a real eye-opener that this coronavirus has actually forced us to stop, review, pivot, and then reassess.
Definitely.
So I think that's the gold. I think a lot of people were kind of stifled in fear.
Yeah.
But I've kept a really positive, open mind. As I said, what have I done in the past that's worked? How have I helped brides and bridesmaids in the past? And we've done Zoom calls, FaceTime, WhatsApp, whatever digital sort of platform to do those video calls. We've adopted that technology in the past. So we've done calls with girls in Dubai and Canada and Singapore and the UK. We dressed a bridal party recently. 4 bridesmaids were from Los Angeles. I only ever saw them via Zoom.
Yep.
And then they arrived into Australia a week before the wedding. And only 2 out of the 4 girls actually needed some minor alterations before the wedding on the Saturday.
That's
well done.
That's good. And actually, Karen, I saw then you react and go, yes, when she said ease of operations. Now, so that time factor, I mean, I know you produce everything here in Australia. I've seen your amazing, you know, people behind the scenes doing all the hand sewing, things like that. So ease of operation, time, that's a big factor for you when you're deciding on you know, ways to move your business forward.
Oh, definitely. I mean, also, we actually, one of our collections is handmade in India, just for full note.
Authenticity?
Yes, yes. But we've got our workroom in Sydney, so we make all of our bespoke gowns there, and some of our wild hearts and some of our other wild hearts in a small little factory workroom in Sydney as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, timelines. I mean, wedding gowns traditionally it's kind of like a 6-month order time, but we really, because we've got our own workroom, a lot of our gowns we can make in shorter amounts of time. But and also with our Luxe collection, the ones that are made in India, we have those, they're sort of run more like a fashion brand. They're sold from stock. So we've got stock and then we sell from that. So if you're getting married literally tomorrow and we've got one, you can have that and get that then. So from time frame and as well for orders, again, if we can do it, we will. And pretty much 95% of the time on a quick order, we can. We don't charge any rush fees or anything. To me, it's about a sale for ourselves. Obviously, it means the bride's got a gown, and also for any of our stockists. So when we get bridal orders, we always start on them straight away. So we're very organised for a fashion brand. Usually, they generally tend to be running late. We kind of do things up front. Because myself and my workroom manager, we like going wrong time is what we call it. So if there's no fabric going to be delivered, we want to make sure we've got everything there. So because it's someone's wedding day, there's no room for error whatsoever. So everything has to be there and has to be done, which is why we can normally fit an awful lot of quick orders in if they're needed, which they usually are at the beginning of the calendar year.
Yep.
That's when there's a lot of weddings or brides come to see us and their wedding date is very short time frame.
Yeah, we actually see the same thing. And 2 things I want to mention on there. I'm so excited. We had not, like, over this sort of period of time, we had a lot of couples that we'd spoken to and done Zoom calls with, hadn't booked a lot of them. And yesterday we took 2 bookings. So I feel like the whole energy behind everything is really gearing up again. And I wanted to share that just to say, guys, yes, we're back. It's exciting news. But the other thing I wanted to say was I love your authenticity then. And I really think that that's going to be the big thing that is going to be different. And credibility is going to be so important coming out of this. You know, we're going to have to think of ways to do things differently. And it's okay to do things differently and let our couples know. Not everyone can afford an Australian designed and bespoke creation that is the Karen Willis Holmes extravaganza. I probably could have, I love everything you do and it's amazing. I've seen how much work goes into it, but not everyone can afford that. And I think it's wonderful the way that you've just gone, okay, well, you know what, I am going to create something that is achievable for everybody, whether it's their shape, their budget, style. You know, you've broadened yourself so that more people can access what you do.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we've got price point probably from just below, like about just over $2,500 to probably our most expensive gown is nearly $13,000 for one of the sort of like top end bespoke gowns, and everything in between. So we do cater to a large audience, really, as long as she's fashion forward and interested in fashionable pieces of clothing. We've got a version for her and in different price points as well.
That's perfect. Now, guys, we're going to wrap up fairly soon. I'm going to ask Glenn one more question, but if you guys have got anything that you want to ask us, please pop it in the chat and we're going to come to that very soon. Now, Glenn, the one other question that I wanted to ask you, so I'm just checking my notes to make sure I cover everything off. I know a trap that I fall into is comparing myself to what everybody else is doing. To be honest, I feel like there's been so many other people who during this period of time have been, doing what I'm trying to do, like learn and research. And I found myself creating this webinar and then looking at what other people are doing and going, oh my God, why did I start this? Like, they're so much better and they're really good. And what have I done? When you go overseas and you see what other people are doing, how do you compare yourself to others? Like, do you just go, or do you go, what do you do? I'll stop talking.
Okay. So I think the gist of comparing yourself to competitors always reminds me of this amazing photo, and it's a photo of this US swimmer, Michael Phelps, and he's butterflying away, and in the side of the shot is the guy in the lane next to him doing the same thing but looking across at him. And you don't have to be a swimming expert to know that Michael Phelps wins.
Yeah.
So when you're comparing yourself to someone else, all you're doing is you're catching up. And I think if you're comparing yourself to a local competitor, you're probably 3 years behind where they're at, because they're probably learning ahead of you. And it's there's so many great sort of analogies around this that I love, because competition amongst DJs like 15, 20 years ago when I first started, like no one talked to each other. It was like very like, oh my God, they're over there, don't go talk to them. Whereas now a lot of us are friends, not just locally, but nationally. We get along really well. And a lot of my good friends are local like competitors, for want of a better term. And we catch up for lunch and drinks and different things.
Oh, I'm going to be a DJ. Yeah. I'm switching fields. Sounds fun.
It's like, we work till midnight and then pack up, right? Like,
yeah, nah, that's okay. I'll just go back to work in the office.
So there's so much here to, I guess, it's easy to get distracted by that shiny thing. What are they doing? What's that new thing? What are they doing? Why did someone book with them instead of us? And the realistic thing is, what people do isn't drastically different to one another. So you're a photographer, a lot of people take photos, but you're unique in the way that you take photos, or your personality or your style of photography.
100%.
So people book you based on you and your photos, and people book me because of me and what I do. So worrying about doing something the way they do it is just a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. It's never gonna, the Michael Jackson impersonator never made as much money as Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah.
And it just ends up taking you away from your core business. You end up, chasing other people's dreams to impress people you don't like, rather than chasing your own dreams to be happy and create energy in yourself. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
It does, 100%. I was actually going to say, that is like such a nice, cushy little roundup to like finish this off. That was really nice. Now, Annetta, Karen, sorry?
So I just wanted to quickly say, when you network with people outside of your market, that's where some real magic can happen too. Because when I network, I have a couple of very close friends, one in South Dakota, one in Canada, one in Michigan, and one in New York. And we talk regularly. And what we can share with each other is very different to what I might share with one of my local competitors. So we talk about what we're innovating in the market, what some of the challenges we've seen with that. And some of these people are a bigger business than me, some are smaller than me, some are about the same size. So we go through the same challenges. We're all in about the same place in life, married with kids and of a certain age or whatever. And so we share a lot of personal things as well. And being able to do that, share what you do with someone who does like literally the same thing as you, like sharing with, photography secrets or challenges with someone who does it, when there's no competitive element at all, it's such a weight off your shoulders. And even if it's some things I can't necessarily share with my staff, I can brainstorm with others who have similar issues with their staff and how they overcame it. So the international networking and even interstate networking is just priceless.
Look, the people I've met from interstate through this have been fantastic. I'm just going to once we can get through these borders, I'm going to be doing wines in every state, just chilling around. But it's actually interesting. I think where I'm loving the whole concept of the wedding industry coming together is that we do all share similar experiences and journeys and businesses, and yet we're not competing. So, we can, photographers can talk to bridesmaids' gowns and like I heard, Annetta and Karen talking earlier about, we can cross promote. And, it's so wonderful that you can kind of, share stories and ideas with other people in our industry that we almost work with rather than against. That's really cool. That's great.
Yeah, and that is everything you've said, Glenn, that it resonates really well, and that is very much the same with us designers. But also, like you said earlier, it sort of being true to what you do and not looking back to see what someone else is doing. I mean, I've learned the hard way. Some things I've done, and probably wasn't, and I hate the term really, but it wasn't on brand to me and my company, and it didn't work. And at the time I thought it was right, and I thought, oh, that's a good way to do something. And I learned the hard way, and it didn't. But then it's taught me I've absolutely got to check everything. Is it on brand? Does it feel right for what we do and who we are? And then it works better, but also it's part of, again, why I started the company. What's the point? You want to stay true to yourself and why you're doing it, because I mean, this industry, it's great to work in, but also it's definitely, I mean, like many industries, it's a tough one. It's not short on hours that's needed to put into it. So you've got to enjoy it, and you've got to feel really proud of what you've done and what you've grown and what you've created. So when you're feeling like that, then that's much better, and then you get the enjoyment as well from it.
Community
art. Get caught up in like the shiny new thing, and I guess with what you ladies do, it's like literally about innovation. You've got to constantly be innovating that new design, that new fashion, and the thing with you know, spending all this time in it, I think we often confuse time and energy, right? So time is money and whatnot, but it's what energy are we spending on this, and is it good energy? Is it going to drain me for no purpose? If you don't know your core business, and one of the things when I coach other wedding businesses is they just don't know how to run a business. You
absolutely
switched on.
I'm testament to that too. So many people just don't know some of the more basic things required to keep a business afloat.
They can be amazing at their craft, but they suck at a business. And if you're sucky at business and amazing at craft, you're going to go broke real quick, and it's hard to make money.
Look, I 100% get it, but I think that's what's also special about the wedding industry is so many people, we all start because we're passionate about what we do, and no one starts and goes, yeah, I'm going to become a financial billionaire and I'm going to go into the wedding industry. Like, you start in the wedding industry because you love it and you're passionate. So if they are someone who has started and they're passionate about what they do, but they don't really know how to become a good business owner, I'm going to ask you all this one actually. Aneta, what's your one piece of advice? How do they...
Oh, I lost you. It's gone. Am I the only one that lost it?
How do they...
We thought it was a tough question, and Rachel's working on it.
No. I think she's frozen on my screen. Did she have a question?
She has on mine as well. You get Dean instead.
You've completely frozen. No problem.
Rachel's frozen.
Hi. Question number 3.
All right. Where's the question?
Oh my God. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. We are just having computer gremlins here today. This is the third computer.
What's the question?
Okay. Question was, oh my goodness. Okay. Brain freeze. You know, if you are someone who is, for a lot of us, in the same boat, passionate about what we do, but we don't know how to run a business, what's your one piece of advice? How do we start that journey to becoming a good business person?
Okay, cool. So my first piece of advice would be focus on what you're good at first and define what your specialty is, and then sit down and do some basic numbers.
What does that mean?
Make sure that your idea, oh God, this is like opening up a plethora of like
I'm going to start a new topic on this one. Actually, and that's a really good point. Guys, put in the chat as well other topics that you'd like us to cover in future, because I'd love to know what you'd like to learn more about. Because to me, I think this is fascinating. Like, you know, how do you go? Like, because I have heard this before where people are like, you know, I'm passionate about what I do. Do the numbers. How do we...
without going into the nitty gritty, because this is a whole session on itself, there's two things that in the accounting industry we refer to. One is called a cost benefit analysis, and then another one is a what if analysis. So I'm not sure if you've heard of those terms in the past. So a cost benefit is basically looking at the costs and the benefits associated with any project, adventure, initiative, or business.
Yep.
So that's the most basic summary. And then a what if analysis is almost asking yourself questions, or a series of questions. What if I don't sell anything? What if I sell 100 units, or I take 100 weddings a year? what if I have 500 weddings a year or 500 products? What does my business look like? So
I love that. I'm writing all
before
these down.
it even happens, it's almost like visualizing all those different scenarios that could possibly play out, because any of those are possible.
Definitely. I love that. And that's practical. That's something that I love that. Thank you for that, because that's something I can do. I can go away and do, okay, what's it going to cost me and what's the benefit? What if I sell 10? What if I sell 100? What if I sell 300? That is super practical. I love that. And the other thing I love that you said, Glenn, was people confuse time with energy. I'm like, ooh, I just like picked up and I'm like, that is so accurate. People get so confuse those two. Now, Karen, I'm going to leave this last one with you because I'm trying to make sure I stick to an early mark. Plus, did I mention I've got a restaurant to go to tonight?
Yes.
I don't know if I mentioned that or not.
And you look fabulous for the occasion.
Thank you. I've got my oh my good gear on. I even put heels on. Karen, what's your one piece of advice if we're passionate about what we do and we want to try and get into that more business frame of mind?
And well, I definitely agree with everything you've just said as well. With, I mean, the finances, of course, you've got to sort that out. But I think also, I mean, how I was talking about earlier, to me, it's looking at and jumping in if you believe in it. So, and again, that's what I've done. Definitely a lot of the decisions we've done and made and absolutely not sensible, but it just felt like the right thing to do. So I think you've got to believe in yourself and you've got to take risks, and you mustn't be scared to fail either, because everything you do is not going to work, sadly. So you've got to, again, that's my version of looking at worst case scenario. If I do this and it doesn't work, have I still got, I'm down to zero. I mean, obviously we don't want to go below zero, and you don't want to get down to zero either. But if something's worth it to you that much, I've definitely put everything on the line to sometimes, if I've believed in it. And various cases. So jump into the deep end. Don't be scared to fail.
Oh, I love that.
I heard something recently that said, if you have a plan B, it means that you don't have enough faith in plan A.
Yeah.
I've heard that. I don't know if I'm quite ready for that.
Yeah, I think a key thing to have is a coach, a mentor, and a network. So those are things that you can lean on for advice. So if you're doing your own accounting, you've got the worst accountant. You know, you should be, or unless you're an accountant, like that.
Yes.
But lean on the people who have the knowledge that you want. So what you guys were talking about before about how hard it is to get your head around the numbers, and I certainly felt that. It wasn't until I spent some time to dig a bit deeper on it and learn the difference between fixed and variable costs and little things like that. And you don't have to become an accountant to know it. You just need to make sure that you have a basic understanding and that your accountant can lean through it. Same as if you don't have a lawyer, you need to know enough so that when we go through pandemics and people want to talk about clauses in your contract, that you know what that all stands for. But all the most successful people in the world have coaches and mentors, and that's how they learned. And so it's through learning, reading business books and all that sort of stuff, and creating a business operating system so that when you have a doubt, you can look to your operating system and it'll give you guidance.
Oh, that's perfect. And I know we 100%, you know, that you are your business's greatest asset. The more you can invest in yourself and learning, things like that. From a husband and wife team perspective, so I actually run the business side of Enlighten. My husband, Dean, who has been playing tech here today, helped bailing me out. You know, he's the photographer and he's the creative side of our business. And so we actually meet with our accountant a couple of times a year, once every few months. And we actually go over the numbers with them, because when we try and do it ourselves, it's like, yeah, it doesn't go well, because we just come from two different perspectives. So we find it works really, really well to have a third party who sits with us together and you know, coaches, helps us understand it all and get us on the same page, which I think for husband and wife teams can sometimes be a real challenge.
Husband and wife teams are always a challenge.
Well, they are. I want to do a whole topic, like a whole one of these just on husband and wife teams. Because there's so many of us in the wedding industry. And
yeah, I agree. I think there is a lot of us in the industry.
Absolutely. Now, thank you very much for all the comments coming in over here over the side. I love Samantha Wynn's comment, community over competition. I 100% agree. That's fantastic. So thank you guys very much. Don't forget I'm going to send you a link after this. I was making some notes about a couple of things and I'm going to put on there just as little takeaways and reminders for us. But also you can join the Weddinar Facebook page, the closed group, so we can all share ideas. And I'd love you to let me know on there as well about what you'd like to hear more about in future. I actually put a poll up today with a couple of different ideas of different topics. Very excited. We've got some marketing people coming in soon, and I've actually managed to planning ahead. This is kind of a bit of a catch-up game. And thank you for bearing with me on the tech issues today. That was a little bit weird and fun.
That's okay. You were worth it, Rachel.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So, cheers, everybody. Thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers, thank
Fabulous.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Happy
We'll see you
weekend.
Friday. Happy weekend.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Karen, we'll chat offline.
Okay. Yeah.